On the morning of Wyatt Lawson's wedding, everything seemed perfect until his bride vanished, leaving only a note behind. Humiliated and heartbroken, Wyatt throws himself into work, never expecting solace to come from Emma Carter, the quiet farmhand who's always been there. But as Wyatt finds comfort in Emma's steady presence, his past refuses to stay buried. When his ex-fiancée returns with a desperate plan to win him back, Wyatt must choose between the love he thought he wanted and the one that's been right in front of him all along. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning of Wyatt Lawson's wedding dawned bright and clear over Meadow Creek. It was the kind of perfect day that seemed made for beginnings. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of the old country church, casting rainbows across the polished wooden pews filled with the town's finest citizens. In the small room at the back of the church, Wyatt adjusted his black tie for the 5th time, his fingers trembling slightly. At 35, he was no longer the reckless young man who had inherited his father's farm and turned it into the most successful agricultural operation in 3 counties. Now he was respected, admired, and, in just under an hour, he would be married to Victoria Reynolds, the daughter of his father's oldest friend and business partner. "You look like you're about to face a firing squad," chuckled his best man, Thomas, handing him a glass of whiskey. "Drink up. It'll calm your nerves." Wyatt took the glass but didn't drink. "I'm fine," he insisted, though the knot in his stomach told a different story. Was this anxiety normal? Shouldn't he be nothing but excited to marry Victoria? She was beautiful, well-connected, and had a business mind as sharp as his own. Together, they would be unstoppable. So why couldn't he shake this feeling that something wasn't right? A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. His mother, Grace, peeked in, her eyes already glistening with unshed tears. "Oh, my boy," she whispered, crossing the room to straighten his already perfect tie. "Your father would be so proud today." Wyatt forced a smile. "I hope so, Mom." She studied his face. "Are you happy, Wyatt? Truly happy?" The question caught him off guard. "Of course," he answered automatically. "Victoria's perfect. We're perfect together." His mother's eyes held his for a moment longer than comfortable. "Perfect isn't always right, son. Your father and I weren't perfect. We fought like cats and dogs sometimes, but we loved each other through it all." Wyatt swallowed hard. "Mom, now isn't the time for—" I know," she said, patting his cheek. "Just remember, there's a difference between the life you think you should have and the life that will actually make you happy." With that cryptic piece of advice, she left, leaving Wyatt staring at his reflection in the mirror. He looked exactly like the successful man he'd worked so hard to become. So why did the stranger in the mirror seem so unfamiliar? Sayesti, on the other side of town, Emma Carter pulled on her worn work boots and grabbed her denim jacket from the hook by the door. At 29, she had spent the last 5 years working various jobs at different farms across Meadow Creek, most recently at the Lawson farm. Her skills with animals and crops had earned her respect among the farming community, even if her quiet nature kept most people at a distance. She glanced at the clock on her kitchen wall and sighed. The wedding would be starting soon. She should be happy for him, she told herself. Wyatt Lawson deserved happiness, even if it was with someone like Victoria Reynolds. Emma had watched Victoria's visits to the farm, had seen the way she wrinkled, her nose at the smell of the stables, how she never seemed to want to touch anything or get her expensive clothes dirty. It wasn't Emma's place to judge, but she couldn't help wondering if Victoria truly understood the life she was signing up for as a farmer's wife, even a wealthy one like Wyatt. Not that Emma understood what it meant to be anyone's wife. Her own. Romantic history was sparse at best. There had been a few dates here and there, but nothing serious, nothing that made her heart race the way it did when Wyatt stopped by the stables to check on his prized horses, or when he remembered how she liked her coffee during the early morning shifts. But that was foolish thinking, and Emma knew it. Men like Wyatt Lawson didn't end up with women like her. They married women like Victoria, who could move effortlessly through the social circles that his success had opened to him. Emma grabbed her truck keys. She wasn't going to the wedding. She hadn't been invited, of course, but she had promised to check on the new foal at the Lawson farm while everyone was celebrating. At least that would keep her mind occupied. The church was packed to capacity as Wyatt stood at the altar, watching the doors at the back for his first glimpse of his bride. The music swelled, the guests rose to their feet, and nothing happened. Murmurs began to ripple through the crowd as the seconds stretched into minutes. Wyatt felt his heart pounding against his ribs. Something was wrong. Thomas leaned in. Maybe she's just having dress trouble? Before Wyatt could respond, the church doors burst open, but instead of Victoria in her wedding gown, it was her father, Harold Reynolds, his face ashen as he hurried down the aisle. "Wyatt," Harold said in a low, urgent voice, "we need to talk. Now." Dread washed over Wyatt as he followed Harold to a small side room. The older man could barely meet his eyes. "She's gone," Harold said finally. "Victoria left a note. She said she can't go through with it." The words hit Wyatt like a physical blow. "What do you mean she's gone? Gone where?" Harold handed him a folded piece of paper. "She said she's been seeing someone else, someone from New York. She left with him this morning." Wyatt stared at the note in his hand, Victoria's elegant handwriting swimming before his eyes. "Wyatt, I can't do this. I thought I could make myself love the farm and this life, but I can't. The truth is I've met someone else, someone who can give me the life I really want in the city. I never meant to hurt you, but I know this would hurt more if I went through with a marriage based on a lie. I'm sorry." "Victoria," the room seemed to tilt under Wyatt's feet. "She's been seeing someone else? For how long?" Harold shook his head miserably. "I don't know. She didn't tell anyone. I'm so sorry, son." Wyatt crushed the note in his fist. The humiliation was almost worse than the heartbreak. Everyone was out there waiting. Everyone would know he'd been abandoned at the altar, rejected, deemed not good enough. "What do we tell them?" Harold asked, gesturing toward the church full of guests. Wyatt squared his shoulders, his jaw clenched tight. "The truth. The wedding is off. Victoria is gone." Child Emma was checking the foal's temperature when she heard the sound of a vehicle approaching. Glancing at her watch, she frowned. The wedding ceremony would just be ending now. No one should be back at the farm yet. She stepped out of the stable to see Wyatt's truck skidding to a stop in front of the main house. Alone. Even from a distance, she could tell something was terribly wrong. His movements were jerky, almost violent as he slammed the truck door and stalked toward the house. Emma hesitated. Should she make her presence known or quietly slip away? Before she could decide, Wyatt spotted her. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice harsh. Emma took a step back. "I'm sorry, I was just checking on Midnight's foal like I promised. Is everything okay?" Wyatt laughed, a bitter sound that held no humor. "Okay? No, Emma. Everything is not okay. The wedding is off. Victoria decided she'd rather run away with some city guy than marry me." Emma's heart sank. "Mr. Lawson, I'm so sorry." "Don't call me that," he snapped. "You've worked here for what, 2 years? It's Wyatt, and don't be sorry. Apparently, I'm the only fool who didn't see this coming." He ran a hand through his hair, disheveling the careful styling. His tie hung loose around his neck, and his eyes were red-rimmed with anger or unshed tears. Emma couldn't tell which. "I should go," she said softly. "Give you some privacy." "Privacy for what? To lick my wounds? To drink myself into oblivion? Don't worry, I can do that with or without an audience." Emma took a deep breath. She wasn't used to seeing Wyatt like this, bitter, angry, hurt. The man she knew was always in control, always kind, despite his wealth and position. Maybe. "You shouldn't be alone right now," she suggested cautiously. Wyatt looked at her, then really looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. "And what would you suggest, Emma? A pity party? Some homespun wisdom about how there are other fish in the sea?" Emma flinched at his tone, but stood her ground. "No, just maybe some food. When did you last eat?" The question seemed to deflate him slightly. "I don't remember." "Then let me make you something. You can throw me out after you've eaten if you still want to." For a moment, Emma thought he would refuse. Then his shoulders sagged. "Fine. Whatever." The Lawson farmhouse kitchen was a chef's dream. spacious and filled with top-of-the-line appliances that Victoria had insisted on installing, even though, as far as Emma knew, she rarely cooked. Emma moved around the space efficiently, finding what she needed to put together a simple but hearty meal. Wyatt sat at the large wooden table, a glass of whiskey in front of him, watching her work with a detached expression. "You don't have to do this," he said after a while. Emma shrugged, not looking up from the vegetables she was chopping. "I know, but everyone needs to eat, even on their worst days, especially on their worst days." "Is that more of that Carter family wisdom?" There was less bite in his tone now. "My grandmother used to say it," Emma admitted. "After my parents died, she raised me on her own. She believed a good meal could heal almost anything." Wyatt was quiet for a moment. "I didn't know about your parents. It was a long time ago, car accident when I was 10. I'm sorry." Emma glanced at him. "Thank you, but today isn't about my sad story." "No, it's about mine," Wyatt said with a hollow laugh. "The successful farmer who thought he could have it all, only to discover he wasn't enough for the woman he loved." Emma slid the vegetables into a pot. "If she couldn't see your worth, that's her failure, not yours." Wyatt raised an eyebrow. "That's a nice sentiment, but it doesn't change the fact that in about an hour the entire town will be talking about how Wyatt Lawson was left at the altar. My humiliation will be complete." "People will talk," Emma agreed. "Then they'll find something else to talk about. That's how small towns work." "You sound like you speak from experience." Emma smiled faintly. "When you grow up as the orphaned girl raised by her grandmother in a place like Meadow Creek, you learn a few things about being the subject of gossip." Wyatt watched her move around his kitchen, her movements sure and practical. There was nothing flashy about Emma Carter. She wasn't beautiful in the conventional, Victoria-like way, but there was something genuine about her that he'd always appreciated. She was a hard worker, honest and good with the animals. The horses, especially, seemed to respond to her gentle touch. "Why are you being so nice to me?" he asked suddenly. "I haven't exactly been pleasant company." Emma turned to face him. "Because I know you're a good man having a terrible day, and because everyone deserves kindness, especially when they're hurting." Something in her simple explanation touched a place inside Wyatt that felt raw and exposed. He looked away, unable to hold her compassionate gaze. "I don't know what I did to deserve being left like that," he said quietly. "Was I so awful, so boring, so lacking?" Emma shook her head firmly. "This isn't about what you lack, Wyatt. It's about what she wanted that she couldn't find here." "And what's that?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "But I do know that running away without facing you means she wasn't brave enough to be honest. And someone who loves you should always be brave enough for honesty." Those words hung in the air between them as Emma turned back to the stove. Wyatt sat in silence, turning his whiskey glass in his hands, considering what she'd said. By the time Emma set a plate of food in front of him, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the kitchen. The simple meal of herb-roasted chicken, vegetables, and fresh bread from the farm's kitchen garden smelled delicious, reminding Wyatt that he hadn't eaten since the night before. "This looks amazing," he said, surprised by his own appetite. Emma smiled. "It's nothing fancy, just good honest food." As they ate in companionable silence, Wyatt found himself studying Emma when she wasn't looking. She'd worked for him for 2 years, yet he realized he knew very little about her beyond her skill with the animals and her reliability. She kept to herself, did her job well, and went home. Unlike some of his other workers, she never asked for advances on her pay or called in sick after a night of drinking. "Do you like working here?" he asked, abruptly. Emma looked up, surprised. "Of course, it's a good job. You're a fair boss." "Just fair?" A slight smile touched her lips. "Fair, respectful, and you pay better than most farms in the area. What more could I ask for?" "I don't know. Dreams? Ambitions? Surely you don't plan to be a farmhand forever?" Something flickered in her eyes, then was gone. "Not everyone needs grand plans, Wyatt. Some of us are content with a simple life well lived." The gentle rebuke made him pause. Was she right? Had he been chasing something grand, a perfect marriage to a society bride, expansion plans for the farm, the respect of people who, in the end, would probably enjoy gossiping about his humiliation? I should go, Emma said, standing and gathering their plates. It's getting late. Leave those, Wyatt told her. You've done enough. She hesitated, then nodded. Are you going to be okay? The question wasn't intrusive or pitying. It was simply concerned. Wyatt found himself nodding. Eventually, I suppose. Thank you for the food and to everything else. Emma gave him a small smile. Any time, and Wyatt, for what it's worth, I think Victoria made the biggest mistake of her life today. With that, she was gone, leaving Wyatt alone in his big, empty house, feeling somehow less broken than he had before she arrived. The weeks following what the town quickly dubbed the wedding that wasn't passed in a blur for Wyatt. He threw himself into work, rising before dawn and working until he was too exhausted to think. He avoided town as much as possible, sending others to run errands that would have normally taken him into contact with the curious and the pitying. His mother visited often, bringing food and concern that he brushed aside with assurances that he was fine, just busy. Thomas tried to drag him out for drinks, insisting that the best way to get over someone was to meet someone new, but Wyatt declined those invitations too. The only interactions he didn't mind were his brief exchanges with Emma. Unlike everyone, she didn't look at him with pity or try to get him to talk about his feelings. She simply did her job, treated him normally, and occasionally left covered dishes in the farmhouse kitchen with simple notes. Thought you might be too busy for lunch or Gran's recipe. Good for cold nights. He found himself looking forward to those small gestures more than he cared to admit. In a world that suddenly seemed filled with fakeness and betrayal, Emma's straightforward kindness was a lifeline. On a particularly difficult day, what would have been his 1-month wedding anniversary, Wyatt found himself wandering to the stables where Emma was tending to a horse with a minor injury. Need any help? He asked, leaning against the stable door. Emma looked up, surprised to see him there. I think I've got it under control, but you can hand me that bandage if you want. Wyatt passed her the bandage, watching as she worked, her movements gentle, but confident. You're good with them, he observed. The horses, I mean. Emma smiled, stroking the mare's neck soothingly. They're honest creatures. No pretense. They either trust you or they don't. Sounds refreshing, Wyatt said dryly. Emma glanced at him. Still thinking about her? Wyatt shrugged. Hard not to, on a day like today. Understanding dawned in Emma's eyes. Oh, it would have been 1 month, Wyatt confirmed. Stupid, right? To even remember that? Not stupid, Emma said softly. Human. They fell into silence as Emma finished bandaging the horse's leg. When she was done, she straightened up and looked at Wyatt directly. You know what helps me when I can't stop thinking about something? Physical work. The kind that makes your muscles ache and leaves no room for other thoughts. Wyatt raised an eyebrow. Is that your way of saying I should get back to work? Emma laughed, a warm, genuine sound that Wyatt realized he'd never really heard from her before. No, it's my way of saying I was planning to rebuild part of the fence in the north pasture this afternoon, and an extra pair of hands would make it go faster. Are you asking for my help or offering me therapy? Maybe a little of both, she admitted with a small smile. You don't have to— No, I'll help, Wyatt interrupted. You're right. Sitting around feeling sorry for myself isn't doing me any good, and so they spent the afternoon working side by side, repairing the damaged section of fence. The physical labor was exactly what Wyatt needed, and Emma's quiet company was surprisingly comfortable. They didn't talk much, but the silence wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. By the time they finished, the sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. They stood back to admire their work, sweaty and tired, but satisfied. Thank you. You, Wyatt said, and they both knew he wasn't just talking about the fence. Emma looked at him, her face softened by the fading light. Anytime. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition, perhaps, of a connection that was forming despite their differences in status and background. Wyatt found himself wondering what it would be like to know Emma better, to understand what made her the person she was. But before he could explore that thought further, the moment was broken by the sound of his phone ringing. Wyatt pulled it from his pocket, expecting it to be his mother or Thomas. Instead, Victoria's name flashed on the screen. Emma saw it too, her expression closing off immediately. "I should get going. Thanks for your help today." She walked away, quickly, leaving Wyatt staring at the ringing phone, torn between the desire to answer it and the urge to throw it as far as he could. After a long moment, he hit decline and slipped the phone back into his pocket. Whatever Victoria had to say, it could wait. Right now, he had fences to mend, and not just the wooden kind. Victoria's phone call haunted Wyatt for days. Though he hadn't answered it, she'd left a voicemail that he finally listened to while sitting alone on his front porch, a glass of whiskey in hand. "Wyatt, it's me." Her voice had sounded shaky, uncertain, so unlike the confident Victoria he thought he knew. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. Can we talk? Please call me back." He'd deleted the message immediately, but her words lingered. A mistake, she'd said, as if leaving him at the altar was just a small error in judgment that could be fixed with a conversation. The farm's daily operations provided some distraction, but in quiet moments, Wyatt found himself replaying not just Victoria's message, but also his recent interactions with Emma. There was something about her straightforward kindness that felt like a balm on his wounded pride. She didn't seem to want anything from him, except perhaps his recovery. It had been 3 days since they'd fixed the fence together, and he hadn't seen much of her since then. She'd been assigned to work in the orchard, overseeing the early preparations for the coming harvest season. On impulse, Wyatt decided to check on the progress himself. Emma was helping to inspect the apple trees for any signs of disease or pests when she spotted Wyatt's truck approaching. Her heart did that familiar little skip that she'd been trying for years to ignore. "Morning," he called as he walked toward her, looking more like himself than he had in weeks. The dark circles under his eyes had faded, and his stride had regained some of its old confidence. "Morning," Emma replied, climbing down from her ladder. "Everything okay?" "Just checking on things," he said with a shrug. "How are the trees looking?" "Good. No sign of fire blight, and the fruit is developing nicely. Should be a good harvest this year." Wyatt nodded, seemingly satisfied, but made no move to leave. Instead, he looked around at the orchard stretching. Out before them, rows of trees laden with small growing fruit. "My father planted these trees," he said after a moment. "Everyone told him it was a mistake, that this land wasn't right for an orchard, but he insisted." Emma smiled. "He was right." "He was," Wyatt agreed. "He used to say that the best things in life came from taking chances that others thought were foolish." There was something in his tone that made Emma look at him more closely. "Sounds like a wise man." He was. "I wish..." Wyatt trailed off, shaking his head slightly. "Anyway, I actually came to ask if you'd like to have dinner at the house tonight, as a thank you for all your help recently." The invitation caught Emma completely off guard. "Dinner? Nothing fancy," Wyatt added quickly. "I'm no chef, but I can manage a decent meal, unless you have other plans." Emma couldn't remember the last time she'd had other plans that didn't involve her small cottage, a book, or occasionally visiting her few friends in town. No other plans. Dinner sounds nice." "Great. 7 o'clock? I'll be there," Emma said, trying to keep her voice casual, even as her mind raced with questions. What did this invitation mean? Was it really just a thank you, or something more? And what on earth was she going to wear? Emma spent more time than she cared to admit getting ready that evening. After a shower, she stood before her small closet, trying to decide what was appropriate for dinner with her boss, who might be... what, exactly? A friend? Something else? She settled on a simple blue dress, one of the few dresses she owned, and a pair of low-heeled sandals. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "You don't need fancy things to look lovely, Emma. Just be clean, neat, and wear something that makes you feel good." The dress did make her feel good, even if it was years out of style. She left her light brown hair loose around her shoulders, instead of in its usual practical braid, and applied just a touch of lip gloss, her only concession to makeup. As she drove to the Lawson farm, Emma firmly reminded herself that this was just a friendly dinner. Wyatt was still recovering from a terrible heartbreak. He probably just wanted company, someone to talk to who wouldn't gossip about him later. Nothing more. But when he opened the door, freshly showered and wearing a crisp, button-down shirt that brought out the blue in his eyes, her heart betrayed her with its quickened beat. "You look nice," he said, sounding almost surprised. Emma fought the urge to smooth her dress nervously. "Thank you, so do you." He led her through to the kitchen where the table had been set for two, with what looked like the good china. A bottle of wine was already open, breathing, and the smell of something delicious filled the air. "You said nothing fancy," Emma teased gently, taking in the scene. Wyatt looked slightly embarrassed. "I may have undersold it a bit. I haven't had a reason to use any of this stuff in, well, ever, actually. Victoria always said we should save it for special occasions." The mention of Victoria brought a momentary awkwardness, but Wyatt quickly moved past it, pulling out a chair for Emma. "I hope you like roast chicken. It's one of the few things I can make well." "I love it," Emma assured him, touched by the effort he'd clearly put into the evening. As they ate, the conversation flowed, more easily than Emma had expected. Wyatt asked about her childhood, her grandmother, her dreams for the future. Emma found herself sharing stories she rarely told anyone, about the small herb garden her grandmother had taught her to tend, about her secret love of painting landscapes, about the years she'd spent traveling across the country before settling back in Meadow Creek. "Why did you come back?" Wyatt asked, refilling her wineglass. "You could have gone anywhere." Emma considered the question. "This is home," she said finally. "For all its faults and small-town gossip, it's where I belong. The land gets in your blood, I guess." Wyatt's eyes met hers across the table. "I understand. That. It's why I could never leave, even when Victoria—" He trailed off, looking down at his plate. "She wanted you to leave?" Emma asked gently. Wyatt nodded. "She had plans, big plans, for us to sell most of the farm, keep just enough for a gentleman farmer lifestyle, as she called it, buy a place in the city. She said I was wasting my potential. Here. And what did you think?" "I thought I could make her happy without giving up everything," he admitted. "I thought love would be enough to bridge our differences." Emma took a sip of her wine. "Maybe love would have been. But it sounds like she loved an idea more than the reality of who you are." Wyatt looked at her sharply, as if seeing her anew. "That's exactly right. How did you know?" Emma shrugged, suddenly self-conscious under his intense gaze. "Just an observation. I've seen it before, people who fall in love with potential rather than the person standing in front of them. And what about you, Emma? What do you see when you look at me?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibilities. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I see a good man who works hard, cares for his land and his animals, and deserves better than what happened to him. Is that all?" His voice was quiet now, searching. Emma hesitated, then decided on honesty. "No, but the rest isn't something I should say." Wyatt leaned forward slightly. "Why not?" "Because you're my boss," she said simply. "And because you're still healing from something that hurt you deeply. Neither of those are good foundations for anything else." Wyatt sat back, a look of respect crossing his features. "You're a wise woman, Emma Carter." "Not wise," she corrected, with a small smile. "Just careful, with my heart and with others." The moment passed and they fell back into easier conversation, but something had shifted between them, an acknowledgement of feelings that might someday be explored. As summer turned to early fall, Wyatt and Emma fell into a new routine. Their dinner became a weekly tradition, sometimes at his house, sometimes simple picnics in the orchard as the apples ripened. They were careful to keep things friendly, both aware of the complicated dynamics at play, but their growing closeness was impossible to ignore. For Wyatt, Emma's presence in his life was like watching a sunrise after a long, dark night. She didn't try to change him or the farm. She understood his connection to the land in a way Victoria never had, and her quiet strength, her ability to find joy in simple things, awakened something in him that had been dormant for too long. On a crisp Saturday in September, they were walking through the orchard, checking which sections were ready for harvest. when Wyatt's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "Victoria again?" Emma asked, having grown used to the ex-fiancé's persistent attempts to contact him. Wyatt nodded, silencing the call. "Fifth time this week. Maybe you should talk to her," Emma suggested, though it cost her to say it. "Get some closure." Wyatt looked at her in surprise. "You think I should call her back?" Emma plucked an apple from a nearby tree, examining it, to hide the pain in her eyes. "I think unfinished business has a way of keeping us stuck. Maybe hearing what she has to say would help you move forward." "Move forward to what?" Wyatt asked, his eyes intent on her face. Before Emma could answer, they were interrupted by the sound of an approaching vehicle. They turned to see a sleek, black car making its way up the farm's main drive, kicking up dust as it came. "Are you expecting someone?" Emma asked. Wyatt shook his head, squinting at the unfamiliar car. As it parked near the farmhouse, the driver's door opened and Victoria stepped out. Emma felt her heart sink. Even from a distance, Victoria Reynolds was stunning, tall, elegant, her blonde hair gleaming in the sunlight. She wore a designer outfit that probably cost more than Emma made in a month. "I should go," Emma said quietly, already stepping back. Wyatt's hand shot out, catching her wrist. "Stay, please." The pleading in his eyes made it impossible to refuse. Emma nodded, though everything in her wanted to flee from this confrontation. Victoria spotted them and began walking toward the orchard, her impractical high heels sinking slightly into the soft ground with each step. Her face was set in a determined expression that faltered only when she got close enough to recognize Emma. "Wyatt," she called, ignoring Emma completely. "We need to talk, privately." Wyatt's grip on Emma's wrist tightened slightly. "Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of Emma." Victoria's perfect eyebrows rose. "Really? Have things changed that much in a few months?" The implication was clear, and Emma felt her cheeks burn. "I can give you two some space," she offered again. "No," Wyatt said firmly. "What do you want, Victoria?" Victoria's confident facade cracked slightly. "I made a mistake, Wyatt. A terrible mistake. James, the man I left with, it wasn't what I thought it would be. He wasn't who I thought he was." "I'm sorry to hear that," Wyatt said, his voice neutral. "But I don't see what it has to do with me." Victoria took a step closer. "I miss you. I miss us. What we had was real, and I threw it away for a fantasy." Emma tried to pull her hand free, uncomfortable witnessing such a private moment, but Wyatt held firm. "What we had," he said slowly, "was a relationship built on what you wanted me to be, not who I actually am. You never loved this farm or this life. You tolerated it while trying to change me, into something that fit your vision." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "That's not true. I loved you. I still love you." "Maybe," Wyatt conceded, "but not enough to accept me as I am." Victoria's gaze finally shifted to Emma, then to where Wyatt's hand still held her wrist. Something like understanding dawned in her eyes. "So that's how it is," she said softly. "You and the farmhand." Wyatt released Emma's wrist, but stepped closer, to her side. "Emma sees me for who I am, Victoria. She respects what matters to me." "And I didn't?" Victoria challenged. "You wanted to sell half the farm and move to the city," Wyatt reminded her. "You complained every time you had to come here. You called it playing farmer when I worked the land myself instead of just overseeing others." Victoria had the grace to look ashamed. "I was wrong. I see that now. After living in the city, dealing with James and his shallow friends, I realize what we had was special. Real." For a moment, Emma thought Wyatt might waver. There was history between them, years of connection that she couldn't compete with. But then Wyatt shook his head. "What we had wasn't real, Victoria. It was convenient. It made sense on paper, but it wasn't love. Not the kind that lasts through hard times and differences." Victoria's expression hardened. "And you think what you have with her is that kind of love?" "Come on, Wyatt, she works for you. She probably sees dollar signs when she looks at you, just like every other woman in this town." Emma flinched as if she'd been slapped. Without thinking, she pulled away from Wyatt and started walking back toward the farm buildings. "Emma, wait!" Wyatt called after her, but she didn't stop. She heard him say something else to Victoria, his voice angry now, but she kept walking, blinking back tears that threatened to fall. She didn't belong in this drama between Wyatt and his ex. Victoria was right about one thing. Emma was just an employee, and she had no business getting involved in her boss's personal life. By the time she reached her truck, her hands were shaking. She fumbled with her keys, desperate to escape before either Wyatt or Victoria could see how upset she was. "Emma," Wyatt's voice came from behind her. "Please don't go." She took a deep breath and turned to face him. "I shouldn't have been there for that conversation. Victoria's right, it's not my place." "That's not true," Wyatt said, his eyes intense. "Victoria doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know anything about you or about us." "There's no us, Wyatt," Emma said quietly. "There can't be. The entire town would think exactly what Victoria thinks, that I'm after your money, your position." "Since when do you care what people think?" Wyatt challenged. "You're the one who told me gossip blows over, remember?" "This is different," Emma insisted. "This would follow me, forever. The farmhand who caught the wealthy boss on the rebound." Wyatt's expression softened. "Is that what you think this is? Me on the rebound?" Emma looked away. "I don't know what this is, but I know it's complicated, and I know Victoria coming back makes it even more so." "Victoria coming back changes nothing," Wyatt said firmly. "What I felt for her is over. It's been over for a long time, maybe even before she left me at the altar." Emma wanted desperately to believe him, but fear held her back. "You should take some time. Think about what you really want." "I know what I want," Wyatt insisted. "I've never been more certain of anything." "Please," Emma said, opening her truck door, "just give it some time, for both our sakes." Wyatt looked like he wanted to argue more, but finally nodded. "Okay, time. But this conversation isn't over, Emma." She managed a small smile. "It never is with you, Wyatt Lawson." To the following week was agony for Emma. She kept to the furthest fields of the Lawson farm, avoiding any chance of running into Wyatt. Their weekly dinner came and went without a word from him, and Emma told herself it was for the best. He needed space to figure out what Victoria's return meant to him. But on Friday afternoon, as Emma was finishing her shift, her phone buzzed with a text message from Wyatt. "Harvest Festival tomorrow night. Whitsley, you go with me? As my date, not my employee." Emma stared at the message, her heart racing. The annual Meadow Creek Harvest Festival was the biggest social event of the year. Everyone would be there. Going with Wyatt publicly as his date would be a clear statement to the entire town. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she debated her response. Finally, she typed, "Are you sure? People will talk." His reply came almost instantly. "Let them. I'm not hiding how I feel about you. Unless you don't feel the same." Emma closed her eyes, thinking of all the reasons this was a bad idea, the gossip, the judgment, the inevitable comparisons to Victoria. But then she thought of Wyatt's smile, his kindness, the way he looked at her as if she was something precious. "I'll go with you," she typed before she could change her mind. The festival was held in the town square, with booths selling local produce, crafts and food. Colorful lights were strung between the trees, and a small stage had been set up for live music. Emma spent hours getting ready, finally settling on a rust-colored dress that her friend Lily insisted brought out the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. She wore her grandmother's pendant, a simple silver heart, and put her hair up in a style that had taken 3 YouTube tutorials to master. When Wyatt picked her up in his freshly washed truck, the look of appreciation in his eyes made all the effort worth it. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Emma blushed. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." The drive to town was filled with a nervous energy. They both knew what this public appearance together would mean, especially after Victoria's return to town had set tongues wagging once again. "Are you sure about this?" Emma asked as they parked near the square. "It's not too late to change your mind." Wyatt reached across the seat to take her hand. "I've never been more sure of anything. The question is, are you ready for this?" Emma took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." As they walked into the festival together, Wyatt's hand Resting lightly on the small of her back, Emma could feel the stares and whispers following them. She held her head high, reminding herself that what was between her and Wyatt was nobody's business but their own. They made their way through the festival, stopping at various booths, chatting with those brave enough to approach them. Some people were genuinely warm, like Emma's friend Lily, who ran the bakery booth and gave Wyatt a friendly but thorough once-over before whispering "good choice" to Emma when he stepped away to buy drinks. Others were coolly polite, obviously curious, but unwilling to show it. And a few, particularly some of Victoria's friends, didn't bother to hide their disapproval, giving Emma looks that clearly questioned what Wyatt could possibly see in her. Through it all, Wyatt remained by her side, his hand often finding hers, his attention focused on making sure she was enjoying herself despite the scrutiny. It was this, more than anything, that helped Emma relax and begin to truly enjoy the evening. They were listening to a local band play when Wyatt suddenly tensed beside her. Emma followed his gaze and saw Victoria entering the festival area, accompanied by an older man Emma recognized as Harold Reynolds, her father. "We can leave if you want," Emma offered quietly. Wyatt shook his head. "No, we have as much right to be here as they do." But it seemed inevitable that their paths would cross, and soon enough Harold spotted them and steered Victoria in their direction. "Wyatt," Harold greeted, his smile strained but polite. "Good to see you." "Harold," Wyatt nodded. "Victoria." Victoria's eyes flickered to Emma, then back to Wyatt. "I didn't expect to see you here. You always said you hated these town events." "I found they can be quite enjoyable with the right company," Wyatt replied, his hand finding Emma's again. Harold, clearly sensing the tension, quickly changed the subject. "The apple crop looks good this year. I hear you're expecting a record." "Harvest?" "We are," Wyatt confirmed. "Emma's been overseeing the orchard crew. She has a real talent for it." Emma felt Victoria's gaze on her like a physical weight, but managed a polite smile. "It's all down to the quality of the trees, Mr. Lawson," Wyatt's father planted. "I just helped them along." Harold nodded approvingly. "Modest. That's refreshing." The barb wasn't lost on Victoria, whose cheeks flushed slightly. "Daddy, I see the Millers over there. We should say hello." Harold looked relieved at the excuse to end the awkward encounter. "Of course. Wyatt, Emma, enjoy your evening." As they walked away, Emma let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Well, that wasn't so bad," Wyatt chuckled. "No, it wasn't. You handled it perfectly." "I felt like a specimen under a microscope," Emma admitted. "Welcome to small-town life," Wyatt said wryly. "But look on the bright side. The worst is over. We've faced Victoria and survived. The rest is just noise." Emma wasn't so sure, but she appreciated his optimism. As the evening wore on, she gradually relaxed more, especially when the dancing started. Wyatt proved to be surprisingly good at it, leading her confidently through several songs. During a slow dance, with Emma's head resting lightly against Wyatt's chest as they swayed to the music, he murmured into her hair, "Thank you for coming tonight. For being brave enough to face them all with me." Emma looked up at him. "Thank you for asking me. I never thought—" "What?" he prompted when she trailed off. "I never thought someone like you would be interested in someone like me," she admitted, softly. Wyatt's arms tightened around her. "Emma Carter, you have it backwards. I'm the one who should be grateful that someone like you would give someone like me a chance. After everything with Victoria, I didn't think I'd ever want to trust anyone again, but you make it easy to believe in second chances." The honesty in his eyes took her breath away. In that moment, surrounded by the lights and music of the festival, with the curious eyes of the town upon them, Emma felt something warm and certain unfurl in her chest. This was real. Whatever happened next, what she felt for Wyatt and what he seemed to feel for her, was real. But as she looked over Wyatt's shoulder, she caught sight of Victoria watching them from across the square, her expression a complex mix of anger, hurt, and determination. And Emma knew with a sinking certainty that their story was far from over. The morning after the Harvest Festival, Emma woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. Squinting at the screen, she saw a text from Lily. "Have you seen the town Facebook page? Call me ASAP." With a growing sense of dread, Emma pulled up the Meadow Creek community page and felt her stomach drop. Someone had posted photos from the festival, several of them featuring her and Wyatt dancing. His arms around her, both of them looking happily into each other's eyes. The comments section was a flurry of speculation, judgment, and a few supportive voices. Wyatt Lawson sure didn't waste any time moving on, always knew that Carter girl had her sights set high. Talk about climbing the social ladder, they actually look happy together. Leave them alone, people. Victoria must be furious. Emma groaned and tossed her phone aside. Last night had felt like something out of a dream. Wyatt's attention, his gentle touches, the way he'd looked at her as they danced under the festival lights. Now the harsh light of day and the town's gossip threatened to turn that dream into a nightmare. Her phone rang, Lily again. But before Emma could answer, another call came through. Wyatt. "Good morning," he said when she answered, his voice warm. "Sleep well?" "I was," Emma said, unable to keep the tension from her voice, "until I saw the town Facebook page." Wyatt chuckled, surprising her. "Ah, I see you've discovered our local paparazzi. I was wondering how long it would take. You've seen it too, aren't you upset?" "Why would I be upset? We look good together." Emma couldn't help smiling despite her anxiety. "That's not the point, Wyatt. People are saying awful things." "People always say awful things, Emma. It doesn't make them true." His voice softened. "Are you regretting last night?" "No," she said quickly. "Not at all. I'm not used to being the center of attention like this." "Well, I have the perfect cure for that," Wyatt said. "How about we give them something else to talk about?" "My mother's birthday dinner is tonight. I'd like you to come with me." Emma sat up straight in bed. "Your mother's birthday?" "Wyatt, that's a family event." "Exactly. And I want you there with me as my... what do the kids call it these days? My... plus one?" The idea of meeting Grace Lawson officially as Wyatt's date was both thrilling and terrifying. "Are you sure your mother would be okay with that? Are you kidding? She's been singing your praises for years." "That Carter girl has a good head on her shoulders, she's always telling me." Emma bit her lip, torn between caution and the desire to grab this happiness with both hands. "What time should I be ready?" "I'll pick you up at 6. And Emma, wear something nice. Not that you don't always look nice, but Mum's birthday is kind of a fancy occasion." After they hung up, Emma flopped back on her bed, a mixture of excitement and dread swirling in her stomach. Meeting Grace Lawson as Wyatt's employee was one thing. Meeting her as the woman dating her son was something else entirely. Emma spent the day alternating between panicking about what to wear and trying to ignore the pings from her phone as more people commented on the festival photos. By the time Wyatt knocked on her door that evening, she had tried on and discarded nearly every outfit she owned. She had finally settled on a simple emerald green dress with a modest neckline and a hem that fell just below her knees. It was the most expensive thing she owned, purchased 2 years ago for a friend's wedding and worn only once since then. When Wyatt saw her, the appreciation in his eyes made all the fretting worthwhile. "You look beautiful," he said simply, leaning in to kiss her cheek. Emma blushed. "Thank you. Is it appropriate for your mother's dinner?" "It's perfect. Mum will love it." The drive to Grace Lawson's home on the other side of town was filled with Wyatt telling Emma stories about past birthday celebrations, clearly trying to put her at ease. By the time they pulled up to the stately Victorian house where Wyatt had grown up, Emma was feeling slightly less nervous. Grace opened the door before they could even knock, her face lighting up at the sight of them. "There you are. I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost." She enveloped Wyatt in a warm hug, then turned to Emma with a smile. "Emma, dear, I'm so glad you could come. It's about time Wyatt brought someone with some sense to one of these family gatherings." "Happy birthday, Mrs. Lawson," Emma said, handing over the small gift she'd brought, a jar of her homemade wildflower honey and a hand-painted card. "It was kind of you to include me." "Oh, call me Grace, please, and this is lovely." She examined the honey jar with genuine appreciation. "Did you make this yourself? Wyatt mentioned you keep bees." Emma nodded, surprised and touched that Wyatt had spoken to his mother about her small hobby. "Just a few hives on my grandmother's property. Nothing fancy." "Well, I'm sure it's delicious. Come in, both of you. Everyone's in the living room." As they followed Grace inside, Emma whispered to Wyatt, "You told your mother about my bees?" He shrugged, looking slightly embarrassed. "I tell her a lot of things about you." Before Emma could process what that meant, they were in the living room where about a dozen people were gathered. Emma recognized Thomas, Wyatt's best man from the almost wedding, and a few other faces from town. Everyone turned to look as they entered, curiosity evident in their expressions. Grace took charge immediately. "Everyone, you know Wyatt, of course. And this is Emma Carter, his—" She glanced at Wyatt, clearly unsure how to introduce them. "My date," Wyatt supplied firmly, his hand finding the small of Emma's back. There was a moment of surprised silence. Then Thomas grinned and raised his glass. "Well, it's about time. Welcome, Emma." The tension broke and people began to greet them, some with obvious curiosity, others with warm smiles. Emma felt herself relaxing as the initial awkwardness passed. These were Wyatt's people, his family, his friends, and they seemed willing to accept her presence, even if they didn't quite understand it yet. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, a beautifully prepared meal that Grace admitted had been catered from the best restaurant in the neighboring town. "At my age, I've earned the right not to spend my birthday cooking," she declared with a wink at Emma. Throughout the evening, Emma found herself watching Wyatt with his family and friends. He was different here, more relaxed, quicker to laugh, touchingly attentive to his mother. It was yet another side of him that she was coming to love. The thought stopped her cold. Love? Yes, she realized with a start. She was falling in love with Wyatt Lawson. The knowledge was both wonderful and terrifying. "You're quiet," he murmured as they were finishing dessert. "Everything okay?" Emma smiled at him, hoping he couldn't read the realization in her eyes. "Everything's perfect. Your mother is wonderful." "She likes you," he said, his eyes warm. "Not that I'm surprised. What's not to like?" After dinner, as people moved back to the living room for coffee, Grace pulled Emma aside. "Would you help me bring out the coffee, dear? I'd like a moment with you." In the kitchen, as Grace busied herself with the coffee service, she spoke without looking at Emma. "My son has been through a lot this year." "Yes, ma'am," Emma said softly. "I worried about him after what Victoria did. He threw himself into work, shut everyone out. I've never seen him so angry, so closed off." Grace turned to face Emma directly. Then, bit by bit, he started to come back to himself. "At first I thought it was just time healing the wound, but then he started mentioning you. Emma did this, Emma said that, Emma makes the best apple pie he's ever tasted." Emma flushed, not knowing what to say. Grace smiled. "I'm not telling you this to embarrass you. I'm telling you because I want you to know that whatever is happening between you two, it's been healing for him. I haven't seen my son this happy in a very long time." "He's been good for me too," Emma admitted. Grace reached out and patted Emma's hand. "I believe that. Just be patient with him. He might still have some healing to do." "I know," Emma assured. "Her? I don't expect anything from him. I'm just happy to be part of his life." "Good," Grace said with a nod, "because I think you could be very good for each other if you give it time." She picked up the coffee tray. "Now let's get back to the party before they send a search party." As they rejoined the others, Emma caught Wyatt's eye across the room. He smiled at her, a private smile that seemed meant just for her, and Emma felt her heart soar. Maybe Grace was right. Maybe they could be good for each other if they gave themselves time. The weeks following Grace's birthday dinner were some of the happiest of Emma's life. She and Wyatt settled into a relationship that felt both exciting and comfortable, spending most of their free time together while maintaining their professional boundaries during work hours. The town gossip gradually died down as people got used to seeing them together. There were still some raised eyebrows and whispered comments, especially from Victoria's friends, but Emma found it easier to ignore them as her confidence in what she and Wyatt shared grew stronger. One crisp October morning, Emma arrived at the farm to find Wyatt waiting for her, an unusually serious expression on his face. "Everything okay?" she asked, immediately concerned. "I need to talk to you about something," he said, taking her hand. "Walk with me?" They headed toward the apple orchard, now nearly bare after the harvest, the trees preparing for winter. Wyatt seemed lost in thought, and Emma felt a flutter of anxiety. "Wyatt, you're scaring me a little. What's going on?" He stopped, turning to face her. "I'm sorry, it's nothing bad, I promise. I've just been thinking a lot about the future. About us." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Oh? You know the old Miller property that borders the east side of my land? The one that's been vacant since old Joe passed away?" Emma nodded, confused by the change of subject. "Sure. What about it?" "I bought it," Wyatt said. "The deal closed yesterday." "That's great," Emma said, still not understanding why he seemed so serious. "It's good land. Will you be planting more apple trees?" Wyatt shook his head. "No, I have other plans for it. There's that little rise with the view of the valley. I thought it would be the perfect spot for a house. Our house, if you want." Emma stared at him, unsure she'd heard correctly. "Our house, Wyatt, are you—" "I'm not proposing," he said quickly. "Not yet. I know it's too soon for that. But I want you to know that I'm thinking long-term, Emma, about a future with you. And I wanted to know if that's something you might want to someday." Emma felt tears spring to her eyes. "Wyatt Lawson, are you asking me if I want to build a life with you?" He smiled, taking both her hands in his. "I guess I am. So what do you say? Could you see yourself living on that hill someday with me?" "Yes," Emma whispered, her heart so full she thought it might burst. "Yes, I could absolutely see that." Wyatt pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "I haven't felt this certain about anything in a long time, Emma. You make me believe in second chances." They stood there together, making plans and dreaming dreams, until the sound of an approaching vehicle interrupted them. Wyatt's foreman, Dave, pulled up in one of the farm trucks. "Sorry to interrupt, boss," he called out, "but there's someone at the main house asking for you. Says it's urgent." Wyatt frowned. "Who is it?" Dave looked uncomfortable. "It's Mr. Reynolds, Victoria's father, and he doesn't look happy." Emma felt a chill that had nothing to do with the October air. "I should get to work." "No," Wyatt said firmly. "Whatever Harold wants, it concerns both of us now. We'll face it together." They rode back to the main house in Dave's truck, Emma's mind racing. What could Harold Reynolds possibly want that was so urgent? Had something happened to Victoria? Harold was waiting on the front porch of the farmhouse, pacing back and forth, his face tight with worry. When he saw them approaching, he stopped, his expression hardening as his eyes fell on Emma. "Wyatt," he said tersely, "I need to speak with you alone." "Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of Emma," Wyatt replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. Harold's jaw clenched. "Fine, it's about Victoria. She's in trouble, Wyatt, and she needs your help." "What kind of trouble?" Wyatt asked warily. "Financial trouble. That man she left with, James, he convinced her to invest in some business venture of his. It was a scam. He's disappeared with her money, all of it." Harold's voice broke slightly. "She's devastated, Wyatt. She's lost everything." Emma felt Wyatt tense beside her but remained silent, waiting for his response. "I'm sorry to hear that," Wyatt said carefully, "but I don't see what it has to do with me." Harold looked shocked. "She needs help, Wyatt. A place to stay, some financial support until she gets back on her feet. She's too proud to ask herself, but I know you still care about her." "Mr. Reynolds," Wyatt said, his voice gentler now, "Victoria and I are over. We have been since the day she left me at the altar. I wish her well truly, but her problems are not my responsibility." "How can you be so cold?" Harold demanded, "after everything you two meant to each other?" "I'm not being cold, I'm being realistic. Victoria made her choices. Now she has to live with them, just like we all do." Harold's face flushed with anger. "This is about her, isn't it?" He jabbed a finger toward Emma. "She's turned you against Victoria." "No," Wyatt said firmly. "This is about me finally understanding what I want and what I deserve. Emma has shown me what a real partnership looks like, what real support and understanding feel like. I won't go back to something that never worked just because Victoria's other options didn't pan out." Harold stared at them, seeming to truly see them together for the first time. After a long moment, his shoulders sagged in defeat. "I had to try," he said, quietly. "She's my daughter. I'd do anything for her." "I understand that," Wyatt said. And I'm truly sorry she's hurting, but I can't be her safety net anymore. Harold nodded once, then turned to go. At the steps, he paused and looked back. She'll be at my place if you change your mind. After he'd gone, Emma turned to Wyatt. Are you okay? He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. A year ago, I might have rushed to Victoria's rescue, even after what she did to me. But now I know that's not love. That's just habit or maybe guilt. What we have, Emma, this is real, this is worth protecting. Emma leaned into him, feeling both relief and a lingering concern. Victoria won't give up easily, especially now that she's desperate. I know, Wyatt admitted, but we'll handle it together like everything else. As Emma had predicted, Victoria was not ready to accept defeat. The following week, she appeared at the farm herself, catching Emma alone as she was finishing her shift. I need to talk to you, Victoria said, stepping out from behind Emma's truck. Emma started, her hand flying to her chest. Victoria, you scared me. Good, Victoria said coldly. Maybe now you'll listen. Stay away from Wyatt. Emma sighed, suddenly tired of the drama. I'm not having this conversation with you. Wyatt has made his choice clear. Has he? Victoria moved closer, her expensive perfume wafting around them. Did he tell you he came to see me yesterday at Daddy's house? Emma felt a flicker of doubt but pushed it aside. No, he didn't mention it. But if he did visit you, I'm sure he had his reasons. Victoria smiled, a calculated expression that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, he had reasons, all right. Old feelings die hard, Emma, especially first loves. What exactly are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you that Wyatt and I have history. Deep, complicated history that doesn't just disappear because some farm girl bats her eyelashes at him. Emma forced herself to remain calm. If that's true, then why are you here talking to me instead of with him? Victoria's confidence faltered slightly. He's confused right now. You're a novelty, a distraction from his pain, but it won't last. If you really believe that, Emma said quietly, then you have nothing to worry about, do you? Time will prove you right. I don't have time, Victoria snapped, her composure cracking. I need... She stopped, seeming to catch herself. You need what, Victoria? His money? His support? Or do you actually need him? Victoria's eyes narrowed. Don't pretend you understand what Wyatt and I had. I understand enough, Emma said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I understand. That you left him when something better came along. And now that your better option has failed, you want him back. That's not love, Victoria. That's convenience. How dare you lecture me about love, Victoria hissed. You're nothing but a gold digger who saw an opportunity and took it. Wyatt was vulnerable and you pounced. Emma felt her temper flare. Is that what you tell yourself? That I must have some ulterior motive because a man like Wyatt couldn't possibly genuinely care for a woman like me? Please, Victoria scoffed. Look at you, look at your clothes, your truck, your everything. You're not his type, you never will be. Maybe that's exactly why he wants me, Emma said quietly. Because I'm nothing like you. The barb hit home. Victoria's face flushed with anger. This isn't over. Wyatt will come to his senses eventually, and when he does, I'll be waiting. With that, she turned and stalked back to her car, leaving Emma shaken but standing her ground. That evening, when Wyatt came to Emma's cottage for their usual Friday night dinner, he found her unusually quiet. Everything okay? He asked as they cleared the dinner dishes. Emma hesitated, then decided on honesty. Victoria came to see me today. Wyatt's expression darkened. What? Where? At the farm, after my shift. She was upset. What did she say to you? Wyatt demanded. Emma took a deep breath. She said you went to see her yesterday, at her father's house. Wyatt's face fell. Emma, I can explain. Emma felt her heart sink. So it was true. You don't owe me an explanation, Wyatt. We never promised each other exclusivity. No, that's not... Wyatt ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Yes, I went to see her, but not for the reason you're thinking. After Harold came to the farm, I felt like I needed closure. Real closure. So I went to talk to her one last time. And? Emma prompted, trying to keep her voice neutral. And I told her exactly what I told her father, that whatever we had is over, that I've moved on. With you. Wyatt moved closer, taking Emma's hands in his. I told her about us, Emma, about how I feel about you. How do you feel about me? Emma asked, her voice barely audible. Wyatt's eyes held hers, serious and sincere. I love you, Emma Carter. I think I've been falling in love with you since that day you made me dinner after the wedding that wasn't. You saw me at my absolute worst and you didn't run. You didn't try to fix me or change me. You just accepted me, supported me, made me want to be better. Emma felt tears welling in her eyes. I love you too, Wyatt, but I'm scared. Victoria isn't going to give up. Let her try, Wyatt said firmly. Nothing she does or says can change how I feel about you. We're building something real here, Emma. Something that can last. He pulled her into his arms, and Emma let herself believe him, let herself trust in the future they were creating together. But a small nagging doubt remained, fed by Victoria's poisonous words and Emma's own lingering insecurities. Would love really be enough to overcome the differences between them? Or was Victoria right? Was she just a temporary distraction from Wyatt's pain, a novelty that would eventually fade? As if sensing her thoughts, Wyatt tilted her chin up, forcing her to look into his eyes. Stop overthinking. What we have is real. I've never been more certain of anything. Promise? Emma whispered. Promise, he replied, sealing the vow with a kiss that chased away her doubts, at least for now. But as they settled into the comfort of each other's embrace, neither of them noticed the figure watching from outside Emma's living room window. Victoria, her face contorted with jealousy and determination. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The holidays approached quickly, bringing a festive atmosphere to Meadow Creek. Main Street was decorated with twinkling lights, wreaths hung on every door, and the annual Christmas festival was just 2 weeks away. For Emma, it would be her first Christmas with Wyatt, a thought that filled her with both excitement and a touch of anxiety. She wanted everything to be perfect, despite her limited budget for gifts. She'd been working on a special painting for him, a landscape of his farm in summer, capturing the golden light over the apple orchard where they'd shared so many important moments. As Emma hung simple decorations in her cottage, her phone rang. It was Grace Lawson. Emma, dear, I hope I'm not interrupting anything, Grace said when Emma answered. Not at all, just putting up some Christmas decorations. Wonderful. That's actually why I'm calling. I've always hosted Christmas Eve dinner for the family, and I wanted to personally invite you to join us this year. Emma's heart swelled with emotion. Being included in the Lawson family Christmas was a significant step, a public acknowledgement of her place in Wyatt's life. I'd love to come, Grace. Thank you for thinking of me. Of course. You're important to Wyatt, which makes you important to me. Grace paused. There's something else I wanted to discuss with you. Would you be free for lunch tomorrow? Just the two of us? Yes, that would be nice, Emma replied, curious about what Grace wanted to discuss. Wonderful. Let's meet at Maggie's Cafe at noon. And Emma, maybe keep this between us for now. I'd like to surprise Wyatt with something. After hanging up, Emma found herself smiling. Being welcomed into Wyatt's family felt like another piece of her life falling into place. Despite Victoria's continued presence in town and occasional attempts to speak with Wyatt, Emma was beginning to truly believe in their future together. The next day, Emma arrived at Maggie's Cafe a few minutes early. The cozy restaurant was decorated for Christmas, with a small tree in the corner and garlands strung across the windows. Grace was already seated at a table near the back, a warm smile spreading across her face when she spotted Emma. Thank you for meeting me, Grace said as Emma sat down. I know you must be busy with the holidays coming. Never too busy for lunch, Emma assured her. Is everything okay? Your call seemed a bit mysterious. Grace's eyes twinkled. Everything is fine. More than fine, actually. I wanted to give you something, and I preferred to do it without Wyatt hovering. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. Emma's breath caught as Grace placed it on the table between them. This was my mother's, Grace explained, opening the box to reveal a delicate gold ring with a small but perfect diamond. And before that, it was her mother's, our family's engagement ring for 3 generations. Emma stared at the ring, then back at Grace. Wyatt and I haven't discussed marriage yet. Grace smiled knowingly. Perhaps not officially, but I know my son Emma. I've seen the way he looks at you, the way he talks about you, and I've seen the plans he's been drawing up for that house on the hill. Emma blushed. He told you about that. He's excited about your future together, and so am I. Grace pushed the box closer to Emma. I'm not saying he's planning to propose tomorrow, but when the time comes, I want him to have this, and I want you to know that you have my blessing. Complete and absolute. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. Thank you, Grace. That means more to me than I can say. Just promise me one thing, Grace said, her expression turning serious. Be patient with him. Wyatt has always felt things deeply, and what Victoria did wounded him in ways he might not even fully understand yet. But I've never seen him as happy as he is with you. I love him, Emma said simply. I'll wait as long as he needs. Grace reached across the table to squeeze Emma's hand. That's exactly why you're the right woman for my son. As they enjoyed their lunch, discussing Christmas plans and family traditions, neither woman noticed Victoria seated in a far corner of the cafe watching their interaction with narrowed eyes. When Grace handed Emma the small box, Victoria's face darkened with fury and determination. Later that afternoon, Emma returned to her cottage to find Victoria's car parked in her driveway. With a sigh of resignation, she pulled up alongside it. She'd known this confrontation was coming eventually. Victoria was waiting on her porch, elegant as always in an expensive wool coat, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the winter wind. We need to talk, Victoria said without preamble. I think we've said everything there is to say to each other, Emma replied, fishing her house keys from her purse. Not quite everything. Victoria's voice was cold. I saw you with Grace today. I saw what she gave you. Emma stiffened. That's between Grace and me. That ring belongs in my family. It was supposed to be mine. It's a Lawson family heirloom, Emma corrected her gently. And Grace can give it to whoever she chooses. Victoria's perfect composure cracked slightly. Do you really think this little fairy tale of yours is going to last? The farmhand and the millionaire farmer? Please, it's a rebound, nothing more. If that's what you need to believe, Victoria, go ahead. But Wyatt and I know what we have is real. Real, Victoria laughed bitterly. Let me tell you what's real. Wyatt and I grew up together. Our families have been friends for generations. We make sense together. You're a novelty, different. Exciting because you're forbidden fruit. But novelties wear off, Emma. And when this one does, Wyatt will come back where he belongs. Emma felt a surge of confidence that surprised her. This was the same Victoria who had once intimidated her so much, yet now her words seemed almost pitiful. If you really believed that, Emma said quietly, you wouldn't be here trying to convince me. You'd just wait for it to happen. Victoria's face flushed with anger. Enjoy your little romance while it lasts. But remember, I'll be waiting, and I know exactly how to get him back. With that, she stalked back to her car and drove away, leaving Emma troubled by her parting words. What did Victoria mean by knowing exactly how to get him back? Something in her tone suggested she had a plan, something more concrete than simply waiting for Wyatt to change his mind. Pushing the thought aside, Emma entered her cottage and carefully placed Grace's gift, the family ring, in her small jewelry box for safekeeping. Whatever Victoria was planning, Emma trusted in what she and Wyatt had built together. Their foundation was strong, based on mutual respect and genuine love. But a small voice in the back of her mind whispered caution. Victoria Reynolds was a woman accustomed to getting what she wanted, and she clearly wanted Wyatt back. Christmas Eve arrived with a light dusting of snow, turning Meadow Creek into a picture-perfect holiday scene. Emma spent the morning baking her grandmother's special cranberry bread to bring to the Lawson family dinner, her cottage filled with the warm, spicy scent of the holidays. As she was wrapping Wyatt's gift, the painting she'd finished just the night before. Her phone rang. "Merry Christmas Eve," Wyatt greeted her warmly. "All set for tonight?" "Just putting the finishing touches on your present," Emma replied. "I hope you like it." "If it's from you, I'll love it. Listen, I need to run into town for a last minute errand. Can I pick you up around 5 instead of 4? "Of course, I'll be ready." After they hung up, Emma wrapped the remaining gifts for Grace and a few other family members, then began getting ready for the evening. She'd bought a new dress for the occasion, deep red with a modest neckline and a flowing skirt that swirled around her calves. It had cost more than she usually spent on clothes, but Christmas at the Lawson house felt like an occasion worth the splurge. At 5:15, a knock at her door surprised her. Wyatt was early. She hurried to answer it, a smile already spreading across her face. But it wasn't Wyatt standing on her porch. It was Thomas, his expression grim. "Thomas, is everything okay?" "I need you to come with me," he said, his voice urgent. "It's Wyatt. There's been an accident." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. "What kind of accident? Is he hurt? Where is he?" "He's at Meadow Creek General. His truck hit a patch of ice on Mountain Road." "Emma, it's bad. He's asking for you." Emma grabbed her coat and purse, not bothering with the presents or the cranberry bread cooling on her counter. Her hands shook so badly she could barely lock her door. "I'll drive," Thomas said, leading her to his car. The drive to the hospital was a blur, with Emma's mind racing through terrible possibilities. Mountain Road was notoriously dangerous in winter, winding around steep drops with minimal guardrails. If Wyatt's truck had gone off the road— "Did you call Grace?" she asked as they sped toward town. Thomas nodded. "She's already there." The emergency room was quiet on Christmas Eve, with only a nurse at the desk and a single patient in the waiting area. Emma rushed to the desk. "I'm here for Wyatt Lawson. There was an accident." The nurse looked confused. "Wyatt Lawson? We haven't had any accident victims admitted today." Emma turned to Thomas in confusion. "I don't understand." But Thomas was gone, and standing in the hospital entrance was Victoria, a satisfied smile on her face. "What's going on?" Emma demanded, her fear turning to anger. "Where's Wyatt? Where's Thomas?" Victoria approached slowly. "Wyatt is fine. There was no accident. I paid Thomas to bring you here. Why would you do something like that?" Emma's voice shook with rage and lingering fear. "Because I needed you out of the way," Victoria said calmly. "Right now, Wyatt is at your cottage, where I told him you'd be waiting with important news. News about how you've been lying to him all along." Emma's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "What lies?" Victoria's smile widened. "It doesn't matter what lies. What matters is that I've planted just enough doubt to make him question everything about you. And when he finds the evidence I left for him to discover, he'll never trust you again." "Evidence of what?" Emma was already moving toward the exit, desperate to get back to her cottage, to Wyatt. "Let's just say I did some creative editing of your text conversations. Amazing what you can do with technology these days." Victoria moved to block her path. "By the time you get back, it'll be too late. He'll believe you've been playing him all along, just like I did." Emma pushed past her. "Wyatt knows me better than that. He'll never believe whatever you've planted." "Are you sure?" Victoria called after her. "Men with wounded pride make such rash decisions, and Wyatt's pride has already been badly wounded once this year." Emma didn't bother responding. She ran out to the parking lot, frantically looking for a way back to her cottage. The hospital was on the far side of town, at least 5 miles from her home, and she had no car. In desperation, she pulled out her phone to call Wyatt, but there was no signal, a common problem at the hospital, nestled as it was in a valley, with poor reception. She began walking rapidly toward the main road, hoping to flag down a passing car or reach a spot with better cell service. The snow was falling more heavily now, the temperature dropping as evening set in. In her rush to get to what she thought was Wyatt's side, she'd grabbed only a light coat, inadequate for the increasingly harsh weather. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 20 minutes, a car approached. Emma waved frantically, relief flooding through her when it slowed and then stopped beside her. "Emma!" It was Lily, her friend from the bakery. What on earth are you doing out here in this weather? Aren't you supposed to be at the Lawsons for Christmas Eve? Lily, thank God, Emma gasped, climbing into the passenger seat. I need to get to my cottage right away. It's an emergency. Lily didn't waste time asking questions, just turned the car around and headed toward Emma's place as quickly as the snowy roads would allow. Victoria tricked me, Emma explained breathlessly as they drove. She sent me to the hospital claiming Wyatt had been in an accident, but it was a lie. Now Wyatt's at my cottage and Victoria's planted. Something there to make him think I've been lying to him. That woman is pure poison, Lily muttered, pressing harder on the accelerator. Don't worry, we'll get there. But as they turned onto Emma's road, they saw Wyatt's truck already pulling, away from her cottage, driving fast despite the dangerous conditions. No, Emma cried, we have to stop him. Lily honked her horn repeatedly, flashing her lights, but Wyatt didn't slow down. If anything, he drove faster, clearly eager to get away. Follow him, Emma pleaded. Please, Lily. In this weather? That's dangerous, Emma. He's driving like he's angry and these roads are treacherous. I have to talk to him. I have to fix whatever Victoria's done. Please. Seeing the desperation in her friend's eyes, Lily reluctantly increased her speed, keeping Wyatt's taillights in view as they wound along the country road. What do you think Victoria planted? Lily asked as they drove. I don't know, Emma admitted. She said something about edited text conversations, making it look like I've been lying to him all along. But why would Wyatt believe that? He knows. You. He loves you. Emma closed her eyes briefly, fighting tears. Victoria's right about one thing. Wyatt's pride has already been badly wounded once. It might not take much to make him doubt everything. They followed Wyatt's truck through town and out the other side toward the Lawson farm. As they turned onto the long drive leading to the farmhouse, they could see Wyatt's truck already parked, the front door of the house standing open as he'd clearly rushed inside. Wait here, Emma told Lily as they pulled up. This is between me and Wyatt. Are you sure? I could come for moral support. Emma shook her head. I need to do this alone, but thank you for everything. She approached the farmhouse with her heart in her throat, not knowing what she would find or what Victoria had made Wyatt believe. Through the window she could see him pacing in the living room, a piece of paper clutched in his hand. Emma knocked on the open door, then stepped inside. Wyatt! He whirled to face her, his expression a mixture of anger and pain that broke her heart. How could you? Whatever you think I've done, it's not true, Emma said quickly. Victoria set me up. She had Thomas tell me you'd been in an accident. To get me away from my cottage. Wyatt held up the paper in his hand. So you didn't write this. This isn't your handwriting. Emma stepped closer, trying to see what he was holding. It appeared to be a letter, and yes, the handwriting did look like hers. But she'd never written any letter to Wyatt. I don't know what that is, she said honestly. May I see it? Wyatt hesitated, then thrust the paper toward her. Go ahead. Read what you wrote to your friend about your plan to land the town's most eligible bachelor after his wedding fell apart. Emma scanned the letter in disbelief. It was addressed to an old friend she hadn't spoken to in years, detailing a calculated plan to win Wyatt's heart for his money and status. The handwriting was remarkably similar to hers, but the words, the horrible, calculating words, were nothing she would ever say or think. This isn't mine, she said firmly, looking up to meet his eyes. I never wrote this. Victoria must have forged it somehow. It was in your desk drawer, Emma, in an envelope addressed to someone named Megan. Your handwriting on the envelope too. Megan. Collins was my roommate in college. We haven't spoken in at least 5 years. Emma took a deep breath. Wyatt, think about it. Have I ever, in all the time you've known me, acted like the person who wrote this letter? Have I ever seemed like someone who cares about money or status? Wyatt's expression wavered slightly. No, but the evidence was planted by a woman who's desperate to get you back. A woman who's made it very clear she'll do anything to break us up. Emma stepped closer to him. Wyatt, look at me. Really look at me. Do you honestly believe I'm capable of this kind of calculation, this kind of deception? Wyatt stared at her for a long moment, his eyes searching hers. Finally, his shoulders sagged. No, No, I don't. Believe it. Not really, but when I found this, it brought back everything I felt when Victoria left. All the doubt, all the humiliation. I know, Emma said softly. And that's exactly what Victoria was counting on. She told me herself that she was setting up something to make you doubt me. Wyatt's expression hardened. She admitted that to you. When? At the hospital. After I realized there was no accident. Emma reached for his hand. Wyatt, I love you. I have never lied to you about anything that matters. What we have is real. At least it is for me. It's real for me too, Wyatt said, squeezing her hand. I'm sorry I doubted you even for a minute. It's just finding this letter. I understand Victoria knows exactly where to strike to cause the most pain. Emma hesitated, then added, but if we're going to have a future together, you need to trust me. Really trust me. Not just until the next time someone tries to plant doubt. Wyatt pulled her into his arms. You're right. And I do trust you, Emma. With my heart, with my future, with everything. They stood there holding each other, the forged letter forgotten on the floor at their feet. After a long moment, Emma pulled back slightly. Your mother is probably wondering where we are. It's Christmas Eve, Wyatt smiled wryly. I should probably call her and explain why we're late, though I'm not sure how to explain that my crazy ex-fiancé forged a letter to break us up. Actually, came a voice from the doorway, you won't need to explain anything. They turned to find Grace Lawson standing there, and beside her, looking thoroughly chastened, was Victoria. Mom, Wyatt said in confusion. What's going on? Grace stepped into the house, keeping a firm grip on Victoria's arm. I ran into Victoria at the market earlier. She seemed very pleased with herself, too pleased. So I invited her for a cup of coffee and got her talking. She has something to tell you both. Victoria looked at the floor, refusing to meet their eyes. I'm sorry, she muttered. I forged the letter, and I set up the fake emergency to get Emma out of the way. Why? Wyatt demanded. What could possibly make you think this was okay? Victoria finally looked up, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Because I realized too late what I'd thrown away. Because I thought if I could just make you doubt her, you might give me another chance. That's not how love works, Grace said firmly. And I think you know that deep down. Victoria nodded miserably. I do now. Seeing how quickly you defended her, Wyatt, I realize I never stood a chance. What you have with her is real in a way that what we had never was. I'm glad you see that, Wyatt said, his voice softening slightly. I hope you find someone who loves you the way you deserve, Victoria. But it's not me. It never really was. Victoria nodded again, a single tear escaping down her cheek. I should go. My father's waiting. We're leaving town after the holidays, starting fresh somewhere new. I think that's for the best, Grace said, a hint of kindness returning to her voice. For everyone. After Victoria had gone, Grace turned to Emma and Wyatt with a rueful smile. Well, that wasn't quite how I envisioned starting our Christmas celebration, but at least the air is clear now. Wyatt pulled Emma close to his side, clearer than it's been in a long time. I should let Lily know what happened, Emma remembered suddenly. She drove me here and she's waiting outside. Invite her in, Grace insisted. The more the merrier on Christmas Eve. As they prepared to head to Grace's house for the belated family dinner, Wyatt pulled Emma aside for a moment of privacy. I'm so sorry I doubted you, he said, cupping her face in his hands. When I found that letter, it was like every insecurity I've ever had came rushing back. I understand, Emma assured him. Victoria knew exactly what she was doing, but that's no excuse. I should have trusted you completely. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, not the antique ring box Grace had given Emma, but a new one. I was going to wait until after dinner to do this, but after everything that's happened tonight, I don't want to wait another minute. Emma's breath caught as he dropped to one knee before her. Emma Carter, you came into my life when I was at my lowest point. You showed me what real love looks like, not grand gestures or perfect appearances, but steady, honest care day after day. You loved me for who I am, not who you wanted me to be. Wyatt opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. Will you marry me? Will you build a life with me on that hill we talked about and face whatever comes next together?" Through her tears, Emma nodded. Yes, yes to all of it. As Wyatt slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Emma felt a sense of rightness, of coming home, that she'd never experienced before. This was what love was supposed to feel like, not a dramatic roller coaster of emotion, but a steady, unshakable certainty. "I have something for you too," she told him when they separated. "Your mother gave me something to keep for you, a family heirloom." Wyatt's eyes widened. "The Lawson ring? She gave it to you already?" Emma nodded. "For when the time was right. I think that time is now. I'll get it from you later," he said, kissing her again. "Right now, I just want to enjoy this moment. You and me starting our future together." From the doorway, Grace watched them with a satisfied smile. This was what she'd always wanted for her son. Not a marriage of convenience or social standing, but a partnership based on genuine love and respect. Emma might not have been the bride anyone expected for Wyatt Lawson, but she was exactly the one he needed. As they all headed out into the snowy night, Emma looked back at the farmhouse where so much of her story with Wyatt had unfolded. From the night he'd been left at the altar to this Christmas Eve proposal, it had been a journey neither of them could have anticipated. The humble farmhand had indeed won the heart of the millionaire farmer, not through calculation or design, but through simple, honest love. And that, Emma knew, was the greatest gift of all.